If I was Commander-in-Chief, we wouldn't have the policy we have in place right now, which is to withdraw troops at a date certain. What we've done when we did that was we made it almost impossible for our men and women in uniform to be successful.
I think it's very plain to see that the conditions there are not going very well. And I lay part of the blame for that on the lack of leadership on the part of our president.
To politics now, both Rick Santorum and Mitt Romney blaming President Obama for worsening conditions in Afghanistan, but both have refused to say whether they would speed up the withdrawal from troops from that country. Meantime, the two leading GOP candidates are focusing today on the next big Republican prize. That's in Illinois tomorrow. 54 delegates are at stake. The first or the latest polls show Romney and Santorum a pretty tight race, with Romney at 35, Santorum at 31, followed by Newt Gingrich and Ron Paul. Joining me now to talk more about it, News Nation political panel, nationally syndicated radio talk show host and MSNBC contributor Michael Smerconish, and nationally syndicated radio talk show host Steve Deace, who has endorsed Newt Gingrich. We'll talk about that in a second, Steve, but let me start with Michael here and the GOP problem, if you will, regarding this war in Afghanistan. Explosive moment, I think, this morning on Morning Joe. Let me quickly play what Joe Scarborough had to say, Michael, and get your thoughts on the other side.
For all Republicans and Democrats that want to continue to fight this war, we won the war. It was an anti-terror campaign. We went in to get Osama bin Laden. We went in to break up al-Qaeda in Afghanistan, where they launched the 9/11 attacks. We killed them. We routed them. We destroyed them.
So, Michael, how does Romney and Santorum, since they're the front runners, counter that point from, obviously, a conservative in their own party?
Well, I think they're going to have a problem come the fall, whichever is still on his feet, in doing exactly that. It's the same old issue. I apologize if I'm repetitive on it when I say that they are trying to out-muscle flex one another in a beauty pageant for conservatives, which then will put them out of the mainstream in a general election. 57% of Americans told Pew Research, a very similar number to what the Washington Post reported, that they want us out of that country. So, you know, they're trying to cultivate support among a small base, but they're doing themselves harm in the long run.
And Steve, let me bring you in. Mitt Romney says that things are not going well on the ground. That's counter to what Senator McCain has processed with his thoughts anyway on Meet the Press. But you also have Romney saying he would still need to listen to the generals and what they had to say, kind of the same old schlag that we often hear 10 years later. It seems that he can't form a strong opinion if he wants to lead this country on this war.
Well, that's because what we're doing is we are circling the drain. I mean, the guest you had on previously, everything he said was 100% correct. We have lost the premise of this conflict. We are now immersed in nation building, and I would just slightly disagree with Michael in that I think the vast majority of conservatives are not in favor of nation building. This idea that you can give somebody democracy whether they want it or not. And I think we have to have a real conversation and get beyond the pandering on both sides and have a real conversation here about what this is supposed to look like at the end and how do we actually get there.
And Michael, but are we going to have that real conversation from these GOP candidates when they know very well what the polling shows out there and they know the situation on the ground? And even Steve Deace here, you know, somebody who is a conservative, he talks to conservatives all day long like you do when they call in on the radio show. Folks want out of that war.
I think we're going to have that conversation, but not until the general election. And the reason that we're going to have it, we all hope, is that the economy will continue to get better. And it's only when the economy gets better that people will then divert their attention from pocketbook issues to some of these foreign policy goals, which I think might bode well for the president, because all of a sudden it's going to put the takedown of bin Laden back front and center. So long as the economy gets better, we will talk about these other issues. Not in the short time, however.
All right, Michael, I know you've got to get back to your radio program to hear what the folks have to say. Steve, you're sticking around because you're on the hot seat with your support of Newt Gingrich, and I laugh only because I've asked you repeatedly every day that you appear on the show about this. Newt Gingrich is not campaigning in Illinois. Is no events planned. I believe he's going to try to pick up some steam in Louisiana for the weekend. But is your guy running or not here, Steve? It doesn't matter at this point anymore. Let's be honest.
Well, I don't think it matters much at this point. I said last week I thought it was a two-man race, and I think that's what the ultimate results out of Alabama and Mississippi were. I think at this point, Newt's biggest goal is to deny Mitt Romney the nomination, and I think there's a lot of conservatives that share that goal, whether or not they want to support Newt Gingrich or not.
Let me play what Rick Santorum said yesterday regarding how high the stakes are for him in Illinois. He's behind in the polls, but let's play his prediction.
If we're able to come out of Illinois with a huge or surprise win, I guarantee that we will win this nomination.
So the audio's a little bad on that, but basically he says if they're able to win in Illinois, he guarantees that he will win this nomination. Is that a guarantee that would be faulty?
No, I don't know if I'd go so far as to pull the Joe Namath card, but I think he's close, and the reason why is because what we haven't had in this race is a true road victory. We are seeing Romney win places where moderate Republicans reign and Democrats usually win, and we're seeing Rick Santorum and then Newt Gingrich to a much lesser degree win in places where Republicans win. What we have yet to see is a road victory. Somebody put on the white jersey, go onto somebody else's turf, and win a big contest head-to-head in their backyard, and if Santorum were to do that in Illinois, that I think would have a huge perception boost for him.
Speaking of perception boosts or just a boost in general, Ann Romney came out. She says it's time for the party, for the rivals of her husband to support him and basically quit the race at this point. What would be your words, polite words obviously always, to Ann Romney?
You know, she seems like a sweet gal, but I think the history of presidential candidates who have had their wives fight their battles for them is usually not very successful, and I would leave it at that.
All right. Thank you very much, Steve. I know you got to get back on the radio as well. Thank you for your time. We'll see you soon.